Hey, my fellow rockheads. Today we're talking about an elephant that could pull down a tree, but wouldn't pull a tiny rope. Sounds ridiculous, right? Maybe. But millions of investors do something very similar every single day. Why doesn't the elephant escape? It doesn't think it can. I think we've all been this elephant. Welcome back to Finance Caveman, where we use strange animal stories to explain money, investing, and the wonderfully confusing decisions humans make. Grab your emergency banana, and let's begin. You've probably heard the famous story of the elephant rope. As the story goes, a baby elephant is tied with a strong rope and learns it can't break free. Years later, after growing into one of the strongest animals on Earth, it remains tied by a much smaller rope, not because it lacks the strength, but because it never tries. Whether this story happened exactly this way isn't the important part. Today we're exploring why old experiences can quietly control future decisions, how that affects investing, careers, and building wealth, and why the strongest limits in finance are often not in the market, but in our own minds. Whether the elephant rope story is literally true or not, millions of people instantly understand it, because it feels true. We've all experienced something similar. A child touches a hot stove once and becomes cautious. A new investor loses money in their first stock and never invests again. A business owner fails once and decides entrepreneurship isn't for them. One experience quietly becomes a lifelong belief. I lost 30% in the market. What did you learn? Never invest again. Or maybe you learned the wrong lesson. That's why the elephant rope has survived for so long as a story. It isn't really about elephants. It's about us. Here's something strange. The market doesn't remember your mistakes. Only you do. The stock market doesn't know you lost money in 2022. Your future employer doesn't know your first business failed. Your next investment doesn't know your previous one disappointed you. But your brain remembers. And sometimes, it protects you a little too well. Psychologists call this learning from experience. It's one of the reasons humans survive, but it's also one of the reasons humans stay stuck. If one painful event teaches us a lesson that's too broad, we stop trying altogether. Friend. Why don't you invest? Investor. I tried once. Friend. How long ago? Investor. 12 years. 12 years is a long time to let one mistake manage your portfolio. The elephant rope reminds us of something every investor eventually learns. Past experience is valuable, but it isn't destiny. Sometimes the biggest risk isn't taking action. It's assuming tomorrow must look exactly like yesterday. The rope investors can't see. Here's where the elephant rope becomes a finance lesson. Most investors aren't trapped by the market. They're trapped by their last experience. Someone bought shares during a market crash. They lost money. Now they believe the stock market is gambling. Someone else started a small business. It failed. Now they believe business isn't for people like me. Another person interviewed for their dream job. They didn't get it. Now every interesting job feels out of reach. Not because it is, because they stopped trying. Notice the pattern? The rope isn't around their hands, it's around their beliefs. One bad experience often becomes one permanent rule. That's dangerous because markets change, people change, skills improve. What wasn't possible 10 years ago might be completely possible today. Finance Caveman has another observation. Humans often confuse "I failed" with "I am a failure." Those are completely different sentences. One describes an event, the other becomes an identity, and identities are much harder to escape than mistakes. You lost money on one investment, so I'm a bad investor. No, you had one bad investment. That's like saying, I burned dinner once, therefore I can never cook again. The market doesn't reward people who never make mistakes. It rewards people who learn from them without letting those mistakes define every future decision. The elephant doesn't need to pretend the rope never existed. It simply needs to test whether it's still strong enough to hold it. Investors should do the same. Don't let yesterday's lesson become tomorrow's prison. Section 3. Successful investors test the rope. So, how do successful investors avoid becoming the elephant? They don't assume yesterday's limits still exist today. They test them. The world's best investors don't expect every investment to succeed. They expect some to fail. What makes them different is that they don't allow one failure to become a permanent rule. I lost money. Congratulations. Every investment gives you new information. Every mistake teaches something. Every success builds confidence. If you stop after the first setback, you never collect enough experience to become better. I failed once. Then try one more time. What if I fail again? Then you'll know more than you do today. Notice something interesting. Children learn to walk by falling hundreds of times. Nobody watches a toddler fall and says, "I guess walking isn't for you." But adults often do exactly that with money. One failed investment, one rejected job application, one unsuccessful business, and suddenly they decide, "I'm just not built for this." That's the invisible rope, not around your body, around your expectations. The investors who eventually build wealth aren't always the smartest. They're often the ones who keep checking whether the rope is still real. Next, how to break the rope. So how do you know whether you're tied to a real rope or an imaginary one? Ask yourself one simple question. Am I making this decision based on today's facts or yesterday's fear? That question alone can change your financial future. Here's the interesting part. Successful investors don't have less fear. They simply update their beliefs more often. When was the last time you tested the rope? About 15 years ago. It might have expired. Imagine someone who bought stocks during the 2008 financial crisis. They watched their portfolio collapse. If they decided, "I'll never invest again," they also missed one of the longest bull markets in history. The market changed, but their belief didn't. Or imagine someone who started a business at 25. It failed. At 45, they still say, "I'm just not an entrepreneur." Maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. But they never tested the rope again. FinanceCaveman has another mammoth rule. Old evidence becomes weaker as time passes. Markets receive updates. Technology receives updates. Your skills receive updates. Maybe. Your beliefs deserve an update too. People grow. The world you're investing in today is not the same world you experienced 10 years ago. What if I fail again? Then fail with newer information. What if I succeed? Then you'll wonder why you waited so long. Breaking the elephant rope doesn't mean taking reckless risks. It means testing your assumptions. Start small, learn, adjust, try again, because sometimes the strongest rope in your financial life exists only in your memory. Finally, the elephant rope lesson. So what does the elephant rope teach us about building wealth? It teaches us that the market isn't always the biggest obstacle. Sometimes we are. FinanceCaveman has noticed something interesting. The world's richest investors don't have a perfect record. They simply stayed in the game longer, because they stayed in the game long enough to let experience work in their favor. The people who never try again never discover whether the rope was real. Investor A: I failed once before. Investor B: I failed before too. Years later, Investor A is still talking about his old mistake. Investor B is talking about his new opportunities. Same past, different future. This is why long-term investing is often more psychological than mathematical. Compound interest is powerful, but it only works if you keep investing. Business experience becomes valuable, but only if you keep building. Skills improve, but only if you keep practicing. Every year you gain more experience. The rope gains nothing. FinanceCaveman has the next mammoth rule. Don't let an old version of yourself make decisions for the person you've become today. Maybe 10 years ago you weren't ready. Maybe 5 years ago you lacked experience. Maybe yesterday you made a mistake. That doesn't automatically describe who you are today. Because markets evolve, opportunities evolve, and hopefully, so do we. The strongest investors aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who eventually realize the rope stopped holding them a long time ago. So, what did animal theory teach us today? Maybe the strongest rope in your life isn't made of rope at all. It's made of one old experience that quietly became a permanent belief. So, the rope wasn't actually the problem. The market doesn't care that you failed before. Your next investment doesn't know your last investment lost money. Your future employer doesn't know you were rejected 5 years ago. Your next business doesn't know your previous one closed. Only you remember. And sometimes, that's exactly what holds you back. The lesson isn't to ignore failure. Failure is one of the best teachers you'll ever have. The lesson is not to let one failure write the rest of your story. FinanceCaveman has one final mammoth rule. Learn from your past, but don't live inside it. Because wealth is usually built by people who keep testing new opportunities, not by people waiting for perfect certainty. Grab your emergency banana, stay curious, and every once in a while, give the rope another pull. You might discover it stopped holding you years ago. I'm FinanceCaveman, and I'm still trying to figure out why humans are sometimes trapped by something they could break with one good tug. See you next time. Peace.